Charlie Chaplin stands in the mud of a makeshift military camp 20 miles from the Western Front, surrounded by 300 soldiers who haven't seen home in 18 months. Corporal James Mitchell, his left arm in a sling and shrapnel scars across his cheek, looks up from his wooden crate and speaks with the hollow voice of a man who's seen too much death. "Mr. Chaplin, we know who you are. Can you make us forget where we are?" What Charlie does in the next 22 minutes doesn't just entertain exhausted troops. It proves that laughter can be a form of healing, that comedy can be an act of mercy, and that sometimes the bravest performance is the one given to an audience that has nothing left to lose. No Man's Land, Northern France, October 12, 1917, Thursday evening, 6:30. The Great War has been grinding through its third year, consuming an entire generation of young men in trenches that stretch from the English Channel to the Swiss border. The Battle of Passchendaele rages 15 miles to the north, where British forces are losing thousands of lives daily for a few hundred yards of Belgian mud. Charlie is here as part of a Liberty Bond tour, raising money for the American war effort. At 28, he's too old for the draft and too valuable as a propaganda tool to risk in combat. But tonight, he's closer to the reality of war than he's ever been. Close enough to hear artillery fire, close enough to smell cordite and death on the evening wind. The 304th Infantry Regiment has been in France for 8 months, fighting in the Meuse-Argonne offensive, the bloodiest battle in American military history. They've lost 60% of their original strength. The survivors are hollow-eyed, shell-shocked, aged beyond their years by horrors no civilian can imagine. The entertainment area is a cleared patch of muddy ground behind the field kitchen, lit by torches and oil lamps that cast dancing shadows across exhausted faces. There's no stage, no proper seating, just soldiers sitting on ammunition boxes, supply crates, and patches of slightly less muddy ground. Charlie looks at these men and realizes his usual comedy routines, the bumbling little tramp getting into minor domestic mishaps, might seem grotesquely irrelevant to soldiers who've watched friends die in poison gas attacks and seeing human bodies blown apart by artillery shells. Colonel William Harrison, the regiment's commanding officer, makes brief introductions. "Men, Charlie Chaplin has come all the way from Hollywood to perform for you. I know you're tired, but show him the respect he deserves." Tired doesn't begin to describe these soldiers. They're spiritually exhausted, emotionally numb, surviving on whatever mental reserves they can still access. Many haven't smiled in months. Some haven't spoken except when military duty required it. Private Danny O'Sullivan, 19 years old from Boston, sits in the front row with his hands shaking uncontrollably, shell shock, what doctors now call PTSD. He stares at the ground, not making eye contact with anyone. Sergeant Mike Rodriguez from Texas has a bandage wrapped around his head where shrapnel grazed his skull during yesterday's patrol. He watches Charlie with polite but skeptical attention, the look of a man who's seen too much reality to believe in entertainment. Corporal James Mitchell, who made the initial request, sits with his wounded arm cradled carefully. He fought at Belleau Wood, where his company lost 80 men in a single morning. He's the one who suggested entertainment might help morale, though he's not sure anything can help anymore. Charlie stands in the flickering torchlight, studying these faces, understanding that this performance matters more than any he can give it in theaters full of laughing civilians. These men need something deeper than comedy. They need proof that joy can still exist in a world gone insane. "Gentlemen," Charlie begins, his voice carrying across the muddy clearing, "I know you've seen things I can't imagine. I know you've lost friends I'll never meet. I'm not here to pretend war is funny or to make light of what you've endured." The soldiers look up, surprised by his directness. Most entertainers who visit military camps avoid acknowledging the reality of combat. "I'm here because laughter is the one thing the war can't take from you. It can take your comfort, your safety, your friends, even your hope, but it can't take your ability to find joy in small moments of human absurdity." Charlie begins his performance not with the little tramp character, but with something more basic, pure physical comedy that requires no context, no setup, nothing but human movement and timing. He pretends to put on an imaginary coat, but the sleeves keep getting tangled. Simple, but perfectly executed. A few soldiers smile despite themselves. Next, he mimes eating an elaborate dinner, complete with multiple courses, wine tasting, and increasingly ridiculous table manners. The contrast between imaginary luxury and their reality of military rations creates gentle irony without mocking their circumstances. Private O'Sullivan glances up briefly, his shaking hands still for a moment as he watches Charlie struggle with an imaginary piece of tough meat. Charlie moves into his famous bread roll dance from the Gold Rush, using actual military-issue hardtack biscuits as props. The biscuits become dancing partners, reluctant dance partners who keep stepping on his feet. Several soldiers laugh out loud, the first genuine laughter they've experienced in months. But Charlie realizes these men need more than distraction. They need to remember what they're fighting for, what they've temporarily lost but might someday reclaim. He begins a new routine, something he's never performed before. Charlie becomes a soldier writing a letter home to his sweetheart. But everything goes wrong. The pen leaks, the paper tears, the wind blows his words away. Each mishap grows more elaborate and absurd. The soldiers recognize the truth in this comedy. They've all struggled to write letters home, struggled to find words that express their experience without terrifying their families, struggled to maintain connection with a world that seems impossibly distant. Sergeant Rodriguez leans forward, genuinely engaged now. Charlie's physical comedy captures something real about their experience, the gap between what they want to communicate and their ability to communicate it. Charlie continues the letter-writing routine, but now he's trying to describe military life to his civilian sweetheart. He mimes marching drills that turn into elaborate dance numbers. He demonstrates proper rifle maintenance that becomes an intricate ballet with his weapon. The soldiers are laughing regularly now, not just at Charlie's physical comedy, but at his insight into their daily experience. He's finding humor in military routine without mocking their service or minimizing their sacrifice. Private O'Sullivan is smiling, the first time Colonel Harrison has seen him smile since joining the regiment. His hands have stopped shaking as he focuses completely on Charlie's performance. For the final 15 minutes, Charlie transforms his act into something unprecedented. He invites soldiers to participate, not as audience members, but as fellow performers. "Corporal Mitchell, you look like a man who knows something about military bureaucracy." Mitchell grins, his first genuine expression of joy in months. "Sir, I could tell you stories about military bureaucracy that would make you weep." "Show me. Don't tell me. Show me." Mitchell stands up, begins miming the process of requesting medical supplies through proper military channels. His physical comedy is crude compared to Charlie's professional skill, but it's authentic, born from real experience. Other soldiers join in, creating an improvised group performance about military life. They mime incompetent officers, impossible orders, equipment that never works properly, food that barely qualifies as edible. Charlie serves as director and fellow performer, helping them find the comedy in their shared experiences. He's not performing for them anymore, he's performing with them. The group creates an elaborate routine about military mail service, letters that take 6 months to arrive, packages that contain bizarre items bearing no relationship to what was actually sent, love letters that get delivered to the wrong recipients. 300 battle-hardened soldiers are laughing together for the first time in months, not at military authority or their circumstances, but at their shared ability to find absurdity in the midst of horror. Charlie realizes something profound is happening. These men aren't just watching entertainment, they're rediscovering their own humanity, their capacity for joy, their connection to each other as something more than combat units. The performance reaches its climax when the entire group creates a silent film scenario about the day the war ended. They mime celebrations, reunions, the journey home, the return to civilian life. It's part comedy, part wishful thinking, part communal prayer. When the improvised performance ends, the clearing falls silent,
But it's not the hollow silence of exhaustion, it's the full silence of men who've remembered what they're fighting to preserve. Corporal Mitchell stands up first. "Mr. Chaplin, I want to thank you, not for the entertainment, for reminding us we're still alive inside." Private O'Sullivan approaches Charlie with tears in his eyes. "Sir, I haven't felt human in months. Tonight, for 22 minutes, I remembered what it feels like to be more than just a soldier."
Colonel Harrison pulls Charlie aside afterward. "Mr. Chaplin, I've seen USO shows, vaudeville acts, even opera singers perform for the troops. What you did tonight was different. You didn't just entertain them, you helped them heal." Charlie leaves the military camp the next morning, but his impact continues. Soldiers who participated in the impromptu performance organize regular entertainment sessions for their regiment. They discover that creating comedy together helps them process trauma, maintain morale, and preserve their connection to the civilian world they're fighting to protect. Letters home begin to change. Instead of focusing only on hardship and loss, soldiers start including funny anecdotes, absurd military situations, moments of levity that help their families understand their experience includes more than just suffering. Private O'Sullivan's shell shock improves dramatically. The physical comedy performance broke through his psychological paralysis, reminding him that his body could create joy as well as endure pain. 6 months later, Corporal Mitchell is promoted to sergeant and assigned to organize troop morale activities. He creates a manual for military entertainment based on Charlie's techniques, emphasizing participation over passive consumption, shared experience over individual performance. The war ends 11 months after Charlie's visit. When the 304th Infantry Regiment returns to the United States, many soldiers continue using comedy as a way to process their military experience and transition back to civilian life. Years later, when Charlie is asked about his most meaningful performance, he doesn't mention sold-out theaters or standing ovations from Hollywood elite. "I once performed for 300 soldiers in a muddy field 20 miles from the Western Front. They taught me that comedy isn't about making people laugh. It's about reminding them they're capable of laughter. That even in the darkest circumstances, human joy can survive if we choose to nurture it." The 22 minutes Charlie spent in that makeshift military theater proved something profound about the purpose of entertainment. It's not just distraction from difficulty, it's affirmation of our capacity to transcend difficulty through shared human experience. Those soldiers didn't need to forget where they were. They needed to remember who they were underneath their uniforms, beyond their trauma, despite their circumstances. Charlie gave them that gift, the knowledge that no matter what they'd endured, no matter how much they'd lost, they still possessed the fundamentally human ability to find joy in connection with others. That's not entertainment. That's healing. That's hope. That's the difference between performing for an audience and performing with fellow human beings who need to rediscover their own humanity.